How's it going, everybody? I'm Steve, and welcome back. So, a lot of you know that Gene Hackman passed away in February of 2025. It's very sad. He was 95 years old, had a very long life, had a great career. And I decided tonight I'd rank 10 movies in my collection that I have from him. Just my favorite, least favorite to most favorite. All these I really like. Obviously, they're in my collection, so that's why I have them. But there's actually some movies I've seen from Gene Hackman that I do not own. Those would be Crimson Tide, Enemy of the State, The Firm. There's a movie called Reds. I've never seen that one, Reds. Let me know in the comments if I should check that out. Obviously, I think it has Warren Beatty in it. I'm sure that's one I should check out. And there's another one that's called Night Moves. It's from 1975. I saw like a couple months ago that Criterion was going to release that on like March 25th. And when I saw that, I saw Gene Hackman was in the movie. I thought I definitely want to check that out. And that's before he actually passed away. So, but I do want to check that one out. I don't know if I'm going to get that one in March if the Criterion if they do a 50% off sale. But I would definitely pick it up in July when Barnes & Noble does their 50% off sale. So I'm going to have the movie posters on my left, and they're going to be ranked 10 to 1. I like all these movies. Obviously, they're all in my collection for a reason. There were a few that I left out here that, like Superman 4, I left that one out. But I left out Young Frankenstein as well because Gene Hackman just makes a cameo in that movie. It's a great movie. It's a great cameo as well. But I thought I'm going to stick to movies that he actually had quite a few lines in and he actually starred in. But so let's get started on this one. Okay, so number 10, I'm sure a lot of people don't even know there's a sequel to this movie. But in 1975, there's a movie from John Frankenheimer, and it's called The French Connection 2. This is there's a big sequel to his 1971 movie that was iconic. He won an Oscar for that movie. This one was pretty good. I think a lot of people were kind of unsatisfied with the end of The French Connection. So this one kind of wraps up some things in it. As Fernando Rey, obviously the villain from the first movie. It does not have Roy Scheider in the movie though. But I thought Gene Hackman's really good in this movie. I think it's really underrated. John Frankenheimer is obviously one of the great directors. Okay, so number 9, this one's from 1995. It's from director Sam Raimi, and the movie's called The Quick and the Dead. This one was obviously if you saw Gene Hackman like 3 years earlier, he played in a Western where he played like a real villain in that movie. And he kind of does that in this movie as well. This one's kind of a modern take on Westerns. And it's actually starring Sharon Stone, has Russell Crowe, has Leonardo DiCaprio. This one, obviously, it has Gene Hackman in all these movies, but he plays a great villain in this movie. I think this movie's kind of underrated in some ways. I think it's basically because Sam Raimi was kind of unknown at the time, or just kind of did like a lot of like horror movies at the time. So this one was definitely different for him. Okay, so number 8, this one's from 1980. The credited director is Richard Lester. A lot of people know that Richard Donner started this project, but the movie is Superman 2. This is the second time that Gene Hackman played Lex Luthor, and this is a great movie. I like this one. I think I like the original a lot more, but that one's actually listed higher than this one. But this one has some great villains in the movie, though. Obviously it's Christopher Reeves as Superman. It has Ned Beatty. Terrence Stamp plays one of the villains in the movie. It's Margot Kidder, obviously, his Lois Lane. But this one's great. Gene Hackman's not really in this movie as much, but he's kind of the foil to the villains in the movie, and they kind of get in the way in a lot of ways. It's been a while since I've seen Superman 2, but I love what he does in this movie. He's really smart in the movie, especially the way it kind of ends. His dialogue's really great in the movie, but Superman 2. Okay, so at number 7, this one's from 2001. It's Spy Number 157 in the Criterion Collection, and the director is Wes Anderson. The movie is Royal Tenenbaums. A lot of people may know that Gene Hackman and Wes Anderson didn't really get along that well during the filming of this movie. Apparently, Wes Anderson really liked the movie after he actually saw it, but yeah, kind of a clashing styles. Wes Anderson was really young at the time. Gene Hackman was a seasoned veteran that had won 2 Oscars, so it just wasn't going to go well, I guess, during that. But this one has a great cast, though. I'm not gonna list everybody from the cast, but as Angelica Houston, Bill Murray, Owen Wilson, Danny Glover, Ben Stiller, Gwyneth Paltrow. It's a great cast. So I can list so many people from this movie, but love this movie. I saw this one in like December 2001. Really brought me out of my kind of depression at the time. Just a lot of people know that what happened in 2001, 3 months earlier. This movie really brightened my spirits, along with this movie that I'm wearing here, The Lord of the Rings. All right, so number 6 for 1978. This one actually is directed by Richard Donner, and the movie is Superman. This one has the same cast: Christopher Reeve, Ned Beatty, and Margot Kidder. Obviously, this one, Gene Hackman's actually in this movie a lot more, playing Lex. He's so great in this movie. It's probably the second or maybe the second movie I ever saw him in. There's another movie that's coming up later in my list that probably came before this one, I think, before I saw it. But this one's so great, though. Gene Hackman's in this movie a lot more. He's the primary villain in the movie, and he's fantastic. Okay, so number 5 from 1974. This one's from director Francis Ford Coppola. The movie is The Conversation. This one I actually saw for the first time last year. Couldn't believe it took me so long. That was the 50th anniversary. This one's has obviously John Casale. If you ever saw Fredo from Godfather, Godfather 2, as Cindy Williams, as Terry Garr. Some of these actors have passed away now, very sadly. Frederick Forrest as Harrison Ford's in the movie as well. It's really great though. This one it's kind of inspired by some other movies like Blow Up, and later on there was a movie called Blowout from Brian De Palma that was kind of similar in some ways. They're all kind of based on kind of a similar style, but this one's it's a lot of fun. Robert Duvall's in the movie as well. Okay, so number 4, this one's from 1986. This one's from director David Anspaugh. And the movie is Hoosiers. I wish I could put this one a little bit higher too, but this one's it's so great. It's about the Milan High School in Indiana. I live in Indianapolis, so this one has a lot of meaning to me. He plays Coach Norman Dale. So great. It has Dennis Hopper, has Barbara Hershey, has the music from Derry Goldsmith, the Oscar winner. Such a great score to this movie. It's a basketball movie. It's a high school basketball. This is back in the day when Indiana just had like one state champion, and nowadays they have like 4 or 5 different classes. But this is back when this little school in Milan, took on all the big schools in Indiana, and they won. It was like in the 50s, like 1955, 54, something like that. But it's so great. Okay, so number 3, this one's from 1992. It's from director Clint Eastwood, and the movie is Unforgiven. Like I said, Gene Hackman played an evil villain in one of his other westerns that I mentioned earlier, but he's really great in this one. He actually won an Oscar. It's actually his second Oscar for this one. But it has Richard Harris is in the movie. It has obviously Clint Eastwood's one of the stars in the movie as well. Morgan Freeman's really great in the movie. Just very, very dark. I think I don't have a lot of westerns in my collection, so there's maybe 5 westerns, 5 or 6 westerns altogether. Okay, so at number 2 from 1972, this one's from director Ronald Neame, and the movie is The Poseidon Adventure. This movie I used to watch so much when I was a kid. It was usually on like network TV, like ABC. So great. Gene Hackman's like the heroic kind of character in this movie. Really fantastic. This coming off his Oscar win. This one's so great. It has Ernest Borgnine. I'm not going to list everybody. It has Jack Albertson, Red Buttons in the movie. It has Roddy McDowell, Shelley Winters. Fantastic movie. This movie's been remade so many times, but the original is so great because of Gene Hackman mainly, because he's so great in this movie. So this one, if you haven't ever seen this one, definitely check it out. Okay, so at number 1, this one's from 1971 from director William Friedkin, and the movie's The French Connection. Like I mentioned, the sequel was at number 10. This one's at number 1. He won an Oscar for this one, his first Oscar. So obviously, when he did the next movie that I mentioned there, The Poseidon Adventure, he found out that he had been nominated. I think he found out he won an Oscar, but he was filming this movie, so I don't think he could attend the Oscars. I think that year, but it's so great. Fernando Rey. This one actually has Roy Scheider, his partner in the movie. Fantastic. This movie's, like I said, it's over 50 years old. It's kind of controversial. I think the movie's kind of been edited. There's one nasty word that they say in this movie that Gene Hackman actually didn't want to say the word, but eventually, years later, like a couple years later, I think Disney owns the rights to this, I believe now, and they did some editing to the movie. So that's another reason why you should buy physical media. But Gene Hackman's so great in this movie. Is Popeye Doyle, plays a kind of a dirty cop in the movie. Okay, everybody, so I really appreciate watching this video. Let me know in the comments some of the movies I should pick up from Gene Hackman. Obviously, I mentioned some that I really like, but I don't own. But obviously, if you've not already subscribed to my channel, please consider doing that. Please leave a thumbs up on this video. I do a lot of like haul videos and ranking videos like this, and tribute videos, and I do a lot of like Ala Theater reactions, and I do a lot of digital code giveaways and that kind of stuff. So please check those videos out. I'm gonna link that one with my 10 favorite actors in it. And everybody have a great one.